top newsmakers.
When I started thinking front office, I went all in front office.
Including the game's bright stars of today.
Here with Celtic star Jason Tatum. Jason, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Behind-the-scenes stories from coaches and executives.
Things go well. It's like the union did great. When things go poorly, the president, now CJ's fault.
And breakdowns from analysts and insiders.
Doesn't seem Philly is in all that much of a rush.
Listen to the Woj Pod wherever you get your podcast. Thursday, Steph Curry leads the Golden State Warriors into Boston to face Jason Tatum and the NBA leading Celtics. The Warriors and Celtics presented by Indeed. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio. You can also listen on the ESPN app or on your smart speaker.
Tuesday on Canty and Carlin, the Cowboys get it done in the postseason. We don't say that often.
Plus, Sean Payton watch continues. Is there a dark horse team waiting in the weeds?
It's Tuesday, Canty and Carlin, 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and watch on the ESPN app.
WING 1410 Dayton. Dayton's ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, happy Tuesday. Not a Monday, technically our Monday, but the first day of the week, at least, that we are live here on 1410 ESPN Radio. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash. Mr. Kev Nash, welcome.
What up, Doe?
Our extended weekend is officially over. We're off and rocking. I know you worked a lot of MLK events over the weekend, of course, but talk about your weekend a little bit. What were you up to?
Oh, I had a blast, man. Obviously, great football was on. I actually got to do something I rarely ever do. Not only did I take a nap on Saturday, I took one on Sunday, and I took one yesterday after the march and rally.
Showing off.
Yeah, man. 3 days in a row. I got a nap in. Haven't done it in quite some time. Had a good time down there at the MLK rally. Did one of the events down there at St. Clair Community College. Hung out for a little bit. Then came home, took a nap. Then woke up and watched some more football.
That's what it's all about. Again, the NFL Super Wildcard Weekend has officially come and gone. And we now move on to the divisional round of the playoffs, and pretty excited about that. So I said this past Friday, Kev, that I expect when we come back on the air on Tuesday that we'll be talking Bills, Bengals in the AFC divisional round. I said I expected that. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we weren't talking Bills and Bengals in the divisional round of the playoffs, because I viewed last week's matchup or last Sunday's matchup, Sunday Night Football's matchup, I viewed that as a trap game for both teams. I felt, and it's weird, KB and I talked about this on the Sunday morning show as well. It's weird. I don't know the last time I came across a trap game in the playoffs. And he agreed that both, when you think about how they're kind of constructed, two teams without their starting quarterbacks that everyone had counted out, that the Vegas line showed obviously heavy favorites being the Bengals and Bills. And it's just one of those things where, the Bills and the Bengals being powerhouses, especially on the offensive side of the ball, there was no way the Ravens had a chance of winning. There was no way the Dolphins had a chance of winning. And so I felt like when you add those elements into the conversation, it becomes one of those situations where naturally, no matter how long some of these NFL players have been in the league, no matter how long we've been fans of teams, we sometimes cannot help ourselves in overlooking opponents. We as fans do it. I mean, all last week, have a lot of the Bengals callers calling in. We were talking Bills Bengals, and I said, we got to be careful. We got to get through the Ravens matchup first. I know, but like them, I agreed with them. It's Bills Bengals. I have no doubt. And then both teams nearly fall this past Sunday. Both teams showed, a lot of deficiencies in their wins. But at the same time, it's one of those when you are playing in a trap game and you are overlooking an opponent and you're looking ahead to the Bills in the divisional round when you got a divisional opponent, by the way, a rivalry matchup with the Ravens. It doesn't matter how shorthanded they are. You knew they were going to get you were going to get their best shot. And I think it was, you had two teams who played absolutely desperate with their playoff lives on the line. And then you had two teams who played as if they have another week. And that showed. I don't think the deficiencies we saw with the Bills are overall team deficiencies. I don't think some of the deficiencies we saw with the Bengals are overall team deficiencies. I do think that when both teams were like, oh, crap, we got a fight on our hands, they were able to make plays when it mattered. But the playoffs, there's nothing easy about the playoffs. I mean, you think back to last year's playoff run for the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, it started out with a jumping out to a big lead over the Raiders in the wild card round, and then they had to hold on for dear life and intercept Derek Carr in the red zone to clinch that, to advance to the divisional round, where they faced the 1 seed Tennessee Titans. They had to go on the road. Joe Burrow got sacked, 9 times?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many games where that there's a quarterback getting sacked 9 times and they come out victorious, but that's what happened. Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times. He could not stay on his feet. He could not stay up long enough to capitalize up with his weapons downfield. The Bengals came out on top. Nothing easy about that. How about the Chiefs? If anything, that one was an interesting game because remember the Bengals got pummeled in the first half. I mean, we were like the Chiefs were just absolutely curb stomping the Bengals in that first half. And then halftime adjustments made. Obviously, Kansas City kind of derailed in the second half. Cincinnati obviously kind of cooled down a little, or not cooled down, but they kind of rallied a bit, came back, got that huge come from behind win. Evan McPherson's foot kicked him into last year's Super Bowl in Los Angeles, of course. There was nothing easy about last year's Super Bowl run for the Bengals getting to the Super Bowl, but that was an easier path. But that's the thing. There's no easy games in these playoffs. I mean, even the Niners who pulled away late from the Seahawks, Geno Smith and the Seahawks had no business being in that game. That score shows a blowout. That was not a blowout. I mean, they pulled away late. Don't get me wrong, but I got to give the Seahawks and Geno and those guys a lot of credit. They played tough. So the Bengals, they didn't make it look easy. We expected them to, but we should not expect that. I know the Cowboys won in impressive fashion last night, but that was more about one team just playing well the way we expected. The Bills were one of those teams, or not the Bills, the Bucks. Someone had to win that division. So that's a little bit of an outlier as far as this discussion is concerned. Bottom line, I'm not concerned about the Bengals. Definitely not concerned about the Bills. I think we're going to get that same energy, that same vibe that we got before the unfortunate circumstance with Hamlin went down. That energy is going to be surreal in Buffalo when the Bengals are in town this coming up weekend. I cannot wait. I'm not a Bengals fan at all, but I'm a fan of football, good football. Bengals are good football. They're fun to watch offensively. And I think there's just enough strength on both defenses to make the other ones work for it. I think it's honestly, I mean, this is the best matchup of the weekend. It's not even close.
Yeah, I agree. This is the number one matchup for me, hands down. Obviously, with everything that happened with Damar Hamlin, we didn't get to experience that Monday night game. So we kind of get a quote unquote redo. We get a second chance at it, a second chance at watching these teams. But for me, watching the Bengals versus the Ravens, I mean, the Ravens gave the Bengals everything they wanted and then some. Mm-hmm. I mean, they brought it all the way down to the wire. I mean, when they threw that last pass to the end zone, I thought he was going to catch it off the deflection. I just knew we were headed to overtime because, like, that's what happens in these rivalry matchups in the playoffs. Like, they are always tight. I mean, you talked about that time when you had Will Allen on, and he talked about the Cincinnati Steelers game where Jeremy Hill had that fumble against the Pittsburgh Steelers where the Bengals were going to ice it. Just like it always happens. These games are super tight. But flipping it to the Bills and the Dolphins, I would say what I saw from the Bills is way more alarming than what I saw for the Cincinnati Bengals. I knew that the Ravens were going to give the Cincinnati Bengals a fight. Like, they put up a good fight in the last week of the regular season with their third string quarterback. So I knew it was going to be a tight game. I didn't expect it to be this tight. I expected the Cincinnati Bengals to pull away like in the fourth, score 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. It looks better on paper than what it actually was. But what I saw from the Bills, I saw Josh Allen frustrated. I saw Josh Allen with turnovers, which he's prone to do with the interceptions. But now he even fumbled the ball. And then the more alarming part, they were actually moving the ball on the Buffalo Bills via the pass. And if Waddle doesn't drop a wide open pass, if Tyreek Hill doesn't drop a wide open pass, they got behind the defense multiple times and they dropped passes from Skylar Thompson. So we look at Skylar Thompson's stat line and says, oh, he was terrible. Well, shoot, there's like 150 yards missing because his 2 big-time receivers dropped potentially touchdown passes that could have set them up and maybe gave those guys a win. So what I saw from the Buffalo Bills defense, if I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, I'm highly concerned because you don't have Von Miller on the other side to cause havoc like the Ravens do with that defensive line. Their defensive line with Buffalo is okay, but they brought Von Miller in for a reason. And now you can't exploit the fact that Jonah Williams might be out this game. You can't exploit that with a Von Miller or with an extremely great pass rush like the Ravens did after they got after Joe Burrow. So if I'm a Bills fan, I'm thinking to myself like, hey, man, we got to tighten up stuff. And the person that needs to tighten up the most is their star quarterback.
So it's interesting you bring up Von Miller. I came across this stat earlier today that the Bills, when they had Von Miller, they ranked 4th in the NFL in pressure rate. And when they attack with 4 pass rushers, and then without him, when they attack with 4 pass rushers right now, they rank 27th in the NFL in pressure rate. So that pass rush that the Bills, and I think the Bills last year watching the Bengals and the Chiefs offensive attack, and even at the time, the Rams with the way they were set up, I mean, it's a passing game. I mean, whether you've seen that or not. So they had to go get Von Miller. They built that defense around pass rushers because the best way to have a chance to slow down a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow
put him on the ground.
So that they did that when they got Von Miller. Unfortunately, Von Miller out for the Bills, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it. So, and that's, you brought up the point that you think the deficiencies with the Bills. Obviously, that's the Bills look more concerning than the Bengals. The Bills look more concerning because, yes, they don't have that Von Miller, but they've been without Von Miller for a while. But I'm going to go on the opposite side of the ball. Josh Allen just being a turnover machine again. Like,
he looked like he did maybe his second year, maybe definitely not his first year, but maybe like his second or third year, where you're getting some wild plays, but you're also getting those bonehead plays, throwing into the double coverage several times. And it just didn't look like the Josh Allen that we got used to seeing this regular season.
So the interesting thing that's interesting about that is there's the impact of Brian Daboll, of course, going over the Giants. You know, the thing, Daniel Jones was like one of the league leaders in interceptions and turnovers last year. He's now ranked towards the bottom. Josh Allen before Daboll was ranked at the top of the turnover margin, and then now ranked towards the bottom. Daboll leaves, Daniel Jones and him start separating as far as that stat's concerned. Daniel Jones is not better than Josh Allen, but what neutralizes great quarterbacks is that turnover, issue. Josh Allen fumbling it, turning it, 2 interceptions. You talked about the aggressiveness. He's a gunslinger. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to take more shots, aggressive shots, than what Joe Burrow does.
Yeah.
But with that, you're going up. I like the Bengals defense better. I actually think the Bengals are getting through this. As I sit here right now, of course, that could change throughout the week. I might decide to be a troll one day. I don't know. It's all on how, if I have an opinion that Bengals fans don't like, I just get labeled a troll. But I think in this situation, if Von Miller's present in that defense, I think I would be more apt to pick the Bills, because that offensive line is so bad for the Bengals right now. But let's keep in mind, the reason I'm not going to allow the Bengals to use the offensive line as an excuse is because that you're a victim of your own success. If this is fair or not, I don't know what to say to it other than 70 sacks and 1 pass away from a Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
Like, that's almost the problem for Joe Burrow. We've talked about this at times. When you can, when you're so good at your job and you can show your boss that you could do something without all the resources and everything that other people who do your job need it to maximize, you almost get punished for it. Well, clearly we don't need to, actually show any urgency in getting these resources back for our talent so that they can actually, maximize everything. It's, well, they're doing a good job without it. There's no real hurry to get it. That, that's what you're concerned about with the Bengals. But from a perception standpoint, Joe Burrow's proven he can win without an offensive line. Is that fair to him? Is that fair to the Bengals? No, but that's why I think that they have the tools to win even with a banged up offensive line. But Joe Burrow doesn't turn it over. He just doesn't turn the ball over. And that's one thing that's key as well. And the Bengals don't turn the ball over. I mean, they're a very disciplined team. They were disciplined last year when they started really making that run. They've been disciplined all this season. I think the Bengals, and what's the line, by the way? I haven't even checked the line for that. I know we're
a good question.
We're recapping this Ravens game, of course, but looking ahead to the Bills, which is safe to do now that those games are in the past. Now it's one of those things where when you look at both deficiencies for both the Bengals and the Bills and how they, had to hold on for dear life to beat both of their opponents this past Saturday or Sunday, it is interesting. But both, obviously, I think, in my opinion, deficiencies with both. But I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that I truly believe they were overlooking their opponents. I think the Bengals saw Huntley and didn't really buy in 100% to that game. Same thing with the backup quarterback for the Dolphins and the Bills. The Bills had the Bengals on their mind. The Bengals had the Bills on their mind. And I think that had a lot to do with that. I think we're going to see a much crisper game between the two. However, maybe not. Maybe the deficiencies were what led to keeping teams into both games this past weekend. And it could be ugly, but it's not going to be with any shortage of star power. That's for sure.
4.5. Buffalo is favored by 4.5.
4.5. Interesting. Shaw came in with that too. There's that. So Shaw said, "Come on, Kev, no Bell."
I don't think these are Bell justified bells. I mean, the fact is that they're missing their number 1 pass rusher, who they brought in free agency, and then the Bengals are banged up on the offensive line. I think that it kind of equals things out. Like, all right, they don't have their best pass rusher, they don't have their best offensive lineman. So it's going potentially could be two backups going against each other. There's no excuse for the Cincinnati Bengals not to go out there. They proved that they can make it to the Super Bowl with a terrible offensive line last year. They were terrible at blocking for the quarterback last year. Solid at run blocking, but terrible at pass blocking. If they don't make it, I can't say like, oh man, this is why. Like, hey man, this is football, bro. This is how the game is played. It's a game of attrition. Like, we saw this with Tua. They don't have their starting quarterback. They still went out there and put on a performance. We saw this with Huntley versus the Cincinnati Bengals. They went out there and tried to win it. No excuses, man. You got to go out there and get it done. Backups, starters. At this point of the season, man, especially if your team isn't in it, you would much rather your team be in there with your third string quarterback than not be in it at all. So no excuses here. So I'll give you up. There you go.
The excuse bell is off and dinging already here in the early going. But that will be interesting. Look, the Bengals have deficiencies. They're banged up on offensive line, but the Bills are banged up on the defensive side of the ball. And they're not clicking as well as what we had anticipated on the offensive side. But, I mean, they still made the explosive plays that they needed to, and that's the same thing for both teams. The thing that's interesting about the Bengals, and people get annoyed when I say this, but I think they are very cocky and they're very arrogant. But they're also very successful they're very successful, low 20s millionaires. And I think we would all be that way, especially when they're having success. So their strength is that too. Their strength is that they're cocky and arrogant. And that's one that has a negative connotation to it. Let me say it this way. They're confident. But with that confidence, with that cockiness, with that arrogance does come some immaturity. And I do think that the Bengals' immaturity almost cost them this past weekend against the Ravens. And I think that the maturity of the Ravens gave them a shot to win that. Now, I say that I think some immaturity kind of came out in the post game after that loss, like with J.K. Dobbins, blowing up, which by the way, he's valid. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
But very interesting stuff coming out of the Ravens locker room that we'll get to in a moment. But no, with the Bengals comes stuff that I don't like, but that's because I am a fan of a rival team, and so are you. And but your team is like that. But again, I'm the only one that's a fan of a team that doesn't have success. So I have to sit back here and wait my turn for many, hopefully not many more years, but who knows? Bottom line is the Bengals are they're cocky, they're confident, they're arrogant. They tweet things. I guess who was it today in the press conference that was asked about? So you got the Bills coming up, and they responded with, "No, they have us." And I'm like, oh, I wanted to jump all over that, but I stayed out of it. I'm like, whatever. But I bet you this: if that was someone on the Browns who said that heading into a big divisional playoff game, I'd be pumping my chest. So I understand where it all comes from. But that's an example of that cockiness, that arrogance. That's their strength. They feed into that. But heading into that wild card game against a banged up Ravens team that they're confident about, I think that's what kept the Ravens in that game too. They're well coached and their strength is the defense. But I think at times, because the offensive game comes so easy to Burrow and Chase and Higgins, I think sometimes, Kev, they get a little like when they do have a little resistance, it kind of surprises them a bit. Now they've overcome it. I get that, but they didn't really overcome it. If that defense doesn't get that big 99-yard touch, that 100-yard touchdown return, Bengals may be sitting at home right now. You may be dealing with Kenner trolling you guys on this Tuesday today, right now. Like that. But again, like I said, the playoff run last year showed it wasn't Burrow that led him through every game. He did some. It wasn't but McPherson won him games last year during the playoff run. The defense won him playoff games last year during the playoff run. Burrow won him that playoff game, of course, in that comeback win against the Chiefs. It's a complete team effort, and I think that's where the Bengals have the advantage over the Bills. Is I think overall as a complete team, the Bengals have them when it comes to that. We'll see what happens.
The thing for the Ravens, they were super patient. They were fine with turning this into a slugfest. They were fine. Hey, man, we're going to grind this thing out. We don't need to make home run plays until they did hit a home run play over Eli Apple in the second half. But they were fine, especially in the first half, because you look at the drive charts for the game. In the first half, the Cincinnati Bengals had the ball 4 times. They scored on 3 of those. So, 2 of those. The fumble, obviously, by Hurst set them back. But, like, they were moving the ball in the first half. That second half, it just was wonky. And it was so Ravens. It was so Ravens football where...
That's so Ravens?
Yes, absolutely. They couldn't get things clicking like they did in the first half. In the first half, I thought, all right, man, Bengals are going to walk away with this thing. And then next thing you know, wait, it's 10-9 at halftime? How is that happening? But that goes to the point that you said when we opened up the show. These games are so tight. They're so close. And this game, the Seattle 49ers game, 49ers had the Seahawks had the lead going into the halftime at that one too. But if you're watching the game, you're looking at the stat sheet of that game, you're saying, oh, team X is up. Nope. The team that everybody has favored to lose is up at the half. Now, granted, the Bengals came back in the second half, got the dub. Same thing for the 49ers. But like these games are going to be super tight, and it's going to come down to one possession. All these games are, because every team out here in the playoffs, especially now, can win it. I think we've gotten rid of all the teams that we don't believe can win the Super Bowl. I think now we're in a crop of teams that everybody believes that can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Doug Toby mentioned, talked about the Bills. Allen was sacked 7 times as well. The Bills line has injuries too. Both teams are heading into this matchup banged up, but it's January. It's mid-J. Like, that's part of it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's not, that's why we talk so much in the off season about rosters heading into the season. I think sometimes we should slow down on that, or hold the brakes. I think we should hold the brakes on that, because it's not about the roster you head into the season with. It's about the roster you head into the playoffs with. And the roster the Bengals and Bills have heading into the playoffs is not the same one they had heading into the season. And it's unfortunate for Cincinnati, because that offensive line finally clicked.
Yeah.
Because it was horrible to start. They added all 3 new names. We thought, bam, it was instantly fixed, but microwave, just hit 30 seconds and boom, it's ready to go. It's not how it worked. They needed about 7-8 weeks, and all of a sudden it clicked again. And then a couple of clicks of some kneecaps and legs. And unfortunately, injuries have kept some of these guys out. It's unfortunate. It does sound like Kappa could come back in the next, they could get some of these guys back. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Not before this weekend, though.
They're all saying questionable. So whatever that means. I mean, it's Monday, so we'll know something about Thursday, like if guys are practicing or not. But yeah, questionable is better than being out, I guess.
How about the Chargers in Jacksonville? Speaking of Jacksonville, by the way, Tony Khan, he's the owner. He's part owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and obviously the owner of All Elite Wrestling, AEW, which is coming to Dayton on February 1st at Wright State University's Nutter Center. We'll be joined by Tony Khan coming up with AEW and the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's going to be calling in here in about 10 minutes, so we'll hear from him. But it's a good, topic right now to kind of transition into our conversation with Tony Khan. It wasn't the game of the weekend to me. We're going to get to a topic later about which quarterback was the most impressive in their debut. And I'm going to have a very different answer than you. I'm going to say Justin Herbert. And the reason is because it's pretty damn impressive. You gave up a 27-0 lead. Like, I think that's some impressive stuff. That's my boy. I love Justin Herbert. I'm still a Justin Herbert fan, but I think it's pretty impressive to give up a 27-0 lead in your NFL playoff debut. But wasn't the best game, but it was one of the more entertaining halves of the postseason. And what a surprise that was.
So I'm watching the game, and I'm watching Sunshine, Trevor Lawrence, turn it over a million times. 4 interceptions in the first half. They muff a punt, so basically they have 5 turnovers in the first half. I say, all right, we'll give it to halftime, see what happens or whatever. We go to halftime. She's like, you want to keep watching or you want to watch a show? Let's watch a show. We're watching the show. I check in on the score. Oh, 27-14. Might be a game. 21-7. Oh, yep, we're back in it. We're watching. Turned it on. Watched the entire fourth quarter. Shock and amazement that a team that turned the ball over 5 times still won the football game. I have no idea how that happens. This is the NFL. This isn't college football where the clock stops every time you get a first down. The clock keeps rolling. These games are basically 3.5 hours on the dot. So how did this happen? I don't know. I rewatched the game on the NFL Network to try to understand what happened. I still don't know. I have no idea. I know Joey Bosa had the penalty, and they went for 2, and Trevor Lawrence basically slam dunked it in for 2 points. But I'm just at a shock and amazement that the Los Angeles Chargers only scored 3 points in the second half, and they couldn't move the ball. In the second half, I think they ran the ball 7 times. 7 times.
Oh, I know.
7 times. Why are you only running the ball 7 times, man?
Cost me some money.
Oh man. Oh, just talk about some money.
We'll get to that in a minute. Continue.
I made some money. But I just couldn't believe it, man. And then everything, as soon as that was over, everybody automatically went to the Sean Payton card. It was just a cluster. What was your viewpoint?
For that, well, for one, here's the deal too. So I can't put my money where my mouth is. I made money technically because I put money on Jacksonville. I made like $80, put $10 on the money line for Jacksonville to come back because the line was so massive. And I'm like, well, they got that score before the half. It's technically a 3-possession game. They get the ball back and they score on that opening drive. It's a completely different ball game. I don't care if it's 27-0. It's a completely different ball game now because because of that, especially if they have that momentum. But here's the other reason I made that bet and wager too is mainly because it is hard when you go into the locker room up 27-28 nothing or 27-7, but up 27 nothing. We all thought the Chargers had won. We were already talking Chargers and Chiefs.
Yep.
And if we're doing that, again, this is why I always say these athletes are human beings too. They're not wired differently than us. They have different experience and a different mindset of this. But they took their foot off the gas because they had a 27-0 lead and it was just easy. And it was the defense was playing well, but their job was easy. Just catch the ball that Trevor Lawrence is throwing to you. So they took their foot off the gas and they weren't intense coming out. The Jags played for their playoff lives coming out. Sometimes the team down big has the advantage because they start playing desperate and they're playing with an urgency and an energy that the team that is just like the Chargers played just to end the game. And the Jags played to win the game in the second half. So that's how they matched what the Chargers did in the first half. And that's where they had a shot. I think that is tough. It's not an excuse. Well, maybe it is an excuse, but it's bad coaching. And it's not, it's on the players too. I know it's tough, but it's the playoffs. You have a 27-0 lead. You win that football game. You should not lose any football game in that kind of manner. And that's what they did. But I do think we went in the locker room, took your foot off the gas. Some of them already thinking about playing the Chiefs. They're laughing at Trevor Lawrence. Kept 4 picks and a half. That's
Crazy.
Not 2 picks, 3, 4. I think, honestly, they took their foot off the gas. That's not to take anything away from the Jags, but my goodness.
Samuels Jr. had 3 himself.
Yep. He appreciates that.
So let me ask you this. Is this the new wave of the NFL? Basically, it's like the NBA where no lead is safe. Because, back in the day, even like when you play Madden or whatever, 21 point is the rule. Like once you get down 21, man, we all know it's over. Is that like because we saw so many comebacks in the regular seasons and the Ravens were a part of a lot of those blown leads in the NFL this year? Is this the new norm where like, hey, man, it's only 27. It's only like, is that the new wave? Like, because I just can't understand how dude only ran the ball 7 times and you're up 20 points.
Yeah, well,
it's alarming.
It is. All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. AEW's Tony Khan. He's going to join us on the other side next.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
The mid-afternoon and early evening will be partly cloudy and very windy, a high near 60. Tonight's going to be mostly cloudy, a low near 35. And tomorrow's going to be mostly cloudy, a high near 48. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. That's true when your business is growing fast, and even more true when there's a lot of uncertainty. Inflation is running rampant, supply chains are clogged, and the labor market is tight. What does that mean for margins? But not every business is in the dark. Over 30,000 businesses know their numbers because they use NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud financial system. NetSuite gives you visibility and control of your financials, planning, budgeting, and of course inventory, so you can manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need, all in one place. In 2023, profit is the new growth. NetSuite helps you identify rising costs, automate your manual business process, and see where to save money. Know your numbers, know your business, and get to know how NetSuite can be the source of truth for your entire company. Right now, NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind flexible financing program. Head to netsuite.com/radar right now. netsuite.com/radar. netsuite.com/radar.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, Free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This is Education Matters with Ohio Education Association President Scott Tomorrow.
As the 135th General Assembly gets to work and Governor DeWine prepares to release his budget priorities, it's absolutely essential that Ohio's leaders commit to providing our public school students with the funding they need to succeed. Tell your state leaders it's time to fully implement the Fair School Funding Plan for our kids.
Education Matters, brought to you by the Ohio Education Association.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, back with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. I promise you we will get back to all of the NFL playoff talk. What a wild weekend it was in the Super Wild Card weekend. I mean, come from behind wins, near upsets, stars stepping up, and newcomers shining in their playoff debuts. The NFL Super Wild Card weekend definitely provided a ton to be excited about, including the Bengals holding off the Ravens in Cincinnati. We, of course, recapped that to open up the show. We'll get back to that side of things coming up in a moment. But I want to switch gears to something I'm also very passionate about. Everyone knows I'm a huge wrestling fan. I'm a huge wrestling fan, and I'm pretty excited because on February 1st, we're going to get to see for the first time ever AEW here in the Miami Valley. AEW Dynamite is going to be coming to Wright State University's Nutter Center on Wednesday, February 1st at Wright State University's Nutter Center. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm even more excited to bring on, of course, the CEO, GM, and head of creative for AEW, Mr. Tony Khan. Tony Khan, welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me on, Justin.
Pretty jacked. You guys are coming to Dayton for the first time. You guys have been around for a while, and I'm always checking with my sales reps. I'm like, are you guys hearing any word about AEW coming to Dayton? Where is AEW at? Finally, you guys are heading our way. I'm excited, Tony, and I know a lot of our listeners are as well. We love pro wrestling in the Miami Valley.
Well, it's a great market for wrestling, and the Nutter Center is a great wrestling venue. And like yourself, there's a lot of great wrestling fans around Dayton. So we're excited to see you all February 1st coming up just in a few weeks. AEW debut in Dayton. We're going to bring a huge event there. I promise. You have my word. It's going to be a great show. This is not one of those wrestling shows coming to town where it's not the big TV production. This is not like a house show. I know, and we all know, so many of us have gone to wrestling events, especially when you're younger. You know, you go as a kid and you think you're getting what you see on TV, and sometimes it's not the case. Well, this is exactly what you see on TV. It is what you see on TV. We're going to do the show live on TBS from Dayton. We're also going to be filming a great episode of Friday Night Rampage for TNT. You'll get 3 hours of great wrestling television, all filmed there, 2 hours live on TBS, plus 1 hour live on 1 hour taped for TNT. It's going to be a great show, and I'm going to load it up for the fans in Dayton because I know it's a great wrestling town, and we just have really great fans in Ohio. It's a great market for us.
Pretty excited about it. And we have, of course, AEW's Tony Khan hanging out with us here this afternoon on the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Now, Tony, it's interesting because I've been a wrestling fan my entire life. So obviously when you have World Wrestling Entertainment, and for the longest time after WCW disbanded, of course, or was absorbed, I should say, WWE kind of owned had all the territories, however you want to word it. They owned the wrestling industry for the longest time. And then you would hear other companies kind of come in, and then you get excited about it, and then they'd go away. And after quite a few of them, I just kind of like, okay, I'm just focusing on this brand over here. This is the one. And then we hear about AEW. And now I would never lie to you. At the beginning, I'm like, okay, we'll see if this works, because I know everything, right? Like I'm like, oh, we'll see if this works. And then here you guys are, and you're not just here, and you're not just some side for it. You are doing it, and you're doing it at such a high level. I have to ask, what is it that you're doing that is working? Because so many others tried. What is it about what are you doing differently that you think is working that maybe some of the other promotions couldn't pull off, in your opinion?
Well, there were a number of key things I felt that needed to be done to launch a successful worldwide wrestling promotion. I think you need to have great TV partners, and that's the biggest thing we had. We had a great roster of wrestlers, and it has to be something that the fans are really going to believe in and get behind, because that's what it's all about. And we've been able to do that with AEW. We have a great audience every week. Tomorrow night, we have Wednesday Night Dynamite live on TBS, just like we're going to have there in Dayton at the Nutter Center in a few weeks. I highly encourage all of you, please check out the show tomorrow night on TBS, see what you're going to be in store for. You know, it's building up to a great show in Dayton, but tomorrow night is also one of the most stacked lineups we've had on AEW Dynamite. It's the 172nd episode of AEW Dynamite now, which is amazing. We've been doing the show for over 3 years, going into year 4 now, and we're off to a great start to 2023. It's been really good. We've been doing great shows on the West Coast. If you check out the show tomorrow night, it'll be live from Fresno. Will be the first time we've ever done the show in Fresno. The prior week, last week, we were in LA, we were in Seattle and Portland, had these great audiences, great live crowds. And I know we're going to get that same great energy from all of you fans there in Dayton. I've heard great stuff about Dayton in particular, but I've spent a lot of time in Ohio. I grew up in the Midwest, right down I-74. And I have to say, some of the most passionate and really loyal fans in all of sports are there in Ohio. And Dayton in particular is known for being a great wrestling city, which is why I am going to bring the best wrestling show to Dayton on February 1st, Wednesday. And you'll get to see a look at what it looks like and the great action tomorrow night if you check it out on TBS at 8 o'clock.
Tony, when you first started this venture, you know, your expectations, like when you start AEW, you have a vision and you have a plan. And from when you first started and you're looking out, man, in the first 3 years, I hope we are here. When you think back to what your vision and expectations were when you first started, and now fast forward to now and where you are at now, are you about where you expected to be? Have you exceeded expectations? You know, or is there still more that you're trying to take this to? Where are you at with where you envisioned this going? You know, let's say 3 years ago, obviously heading into year 4 now, where are you at with expectations coming in versus where you guys are at right now?
Oh, I think right now we're far ahead of my wildest dreams for AEW. You know, when we launched, I was very happy to have 2 hours Wednesday Night Dynamite live and the 4 big pay-per-view franchises we had established. And my goal was just to keep those strong and keep it going because nobody else had been able to do that for decades to sustain that kind of success. We've been able to do it. And that to me is real success. And not only do we have Wednesday Night Dynamite live every week on TBS, just like tomorrow, and the great show we're bringing to you fans in Dayton at the Nutter Center there on February 1st. It'll be also live on TBS. But we've established a second show with Friday Night Rampage on TNT, which is amazing. That was not something we'd originally signed up for. So that is amazing to have a second show so quickly. But also we've built another great pay-per-view franchise with the partnership with New Japan teaming up with AEW and, you know, now with Forbidden Door. And that's something very cool. We offered the fans that crossover event. And I think that's something people can look forward to, hopefully for many years to come. So really, not only have we been able to continue and maintain the great franchises we built in AEW when we launched in the first year with Dynamite on Wednesday nights on TBS and these big 4 pay-per-views, Revolution, Double or Nothing, All Out, and Full Gear. But also we built a new franchise on TV with Rampage and a new franchise on pay-per-view with Forbidden Door. So it's grown really quickly, and it's the biggest year we've ever had on pay-per-view. Our TV deal, it continues to get better and bigger, and it's a great time to be a wrestling fan, I really believe. And I think AEW, we've tried to help, you know, make it the best time to be a wrestling fan.
Tony Khan, AEW CEO, GM, and head of creative for AEW. We talked about the production of the show and how big of a card you're going to be, you know, promoting here in the coming weeks as we get closer. But the roster you guys have too is just beyond impressive. You know, for those who grew up with one brand of wrestling growing up, who are very familiar with a lot of names, you know, that might be the draw that initially gets people hooked, and then all of a sudden you start learning about some other names. Like I'm using me as an example, like MJF, and obviously, you know, Adam Page Cage and some other names from the independent circuits that have come in to be mega stars for your promotion. Now, just talk about a little bit about your roster and just obviously just the mix of so many talents coming from previous promotions as well. Talk about your roster and what and how that kind of helps, obviously, with the production and the stage and everything else that you when you put on an AEW show.
Well, right now the AEW roster is the strongest we've had, and it's top to bottom the best lineup in all of pro wrestling. You've got some of the top stars in the world who came in. They were already established when they got here. Big names like a Chris Jericho, John Moxley, who I think is Ohio's greatest wrestler, and we'll be looking forward to having John Moxley in Dayton coming up soon. Those huge names who'd come in, they were world champions when AEW launched, but then since then we've had Bryan Danielson arrive in AEW, maybe the biggest name in wrestling in my lifetime, Sting, and certainly some of the top names of the wrestlers that were wrestling internationally when we launched AEW. Top names like Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, who had been wrestling overseas, and Pac. But then we've also developed all these great homegrown stars, like you mentioned, MJF, the world champion, or Darby Allin, the TNT champion, Jungle Boy, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and so many others. The Acclaimed, the World Tag Team Champions, stars that it came into their own here in AEW, like all of those I mentioned, or the All-Atlantic champion, Orange Cassidy. And these are really popular wrestlers who've come into their own and hadn't been really nationally recognized before they got into AEW. Jade Cargill, the TBS champion, would be another great example of that. So we have a lot of great homegrown champions, and of course, the women's world champion, Jamie Hayter. So many great stars who made their name, made their worldwide presence and TV reputation in AEW, but then also a lot of stars who came in with the big names, like some of the ones I mentioned, or the Hardys, or a number of others, Keith Lee, and people who've come into AEW with that reputation already built. Recently, Double J, Jeff Jarrett, arrived in AEW and has been doing incredibly well. And I think we have a great roster of names, people that would be familiar to wrestling fans over the years. Dustin Rhodes, another great name like that. And so many top stars, but then also really we've built a lot of homegrown stars along the way. So thanks for asking about it.
Yeah, Tony, the thing that's fun is, I mean, obviously, you work with, part of the ownership of the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're the chief football strategy officer for the Jaguars. And, if you put your GM cap on, I mean, how cool would it be when you're building the Jaguars to just go get the best? I mean, you have a pretty damn good quarterback right now, by the way, but to go get the best wide receivers, the best offensive line, the best defensive line, get the best of every weapon you can imagine. That's always the fun of doing that. But you get to do that in the wrestling world with AEW. How fun is that? You're putting together this almost like, a fantasy wrestling lineup of AEW stars mixed with some well-knowns and up-and-comers and current stars, of course. That has to be fun building a wrestling roster, especially a roster that I'm sure even when you started couldn't imagine having Sting and some of these other big major stars on your promotion.
Absolutely. We launched with some big names. Chris Jericho, from the very beginning, he's the first ever AEW World Champion. He's been a huge part of the show. And like I mentioned, John Moxley showed up at the end is a big surprise on our first AEW event. And John Moxley, I think, is certainly in your local area, I think got to be one of the most popular wrestlers I've ever seen. And he's somebody that fans all over the world recognize. So we had some established names at the beginning, but like you said, who would have thought Sting and Bryan Danielson would join us along the way?
All right, good stuff. AEW's Tony Khan, CEO, GM, and head of creative for AEW. I can't wait. AEW coming to Wright State University's Nutter Center Wednesday, February 1st. It's the first time we'll get to see the AEW promotion come to the Miami Valley. Fans have been contacted the station asking about it. They can't wait. We can't wait as we get closer to talk more about it as well. Pretty jacked about that. Here's what we're also jacked for, Tony, as we, on the way out. the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're big Jags fans right now because we want to see Patrick Mahomes and we want to see the Chiefs knocked out of the playoffs. We want new blood in there. The Bengals and the Jaguars. That is what this area's dream AFC championship game is for everyone tuning in right now. And I'm pretty sure that's yours as well. Talk about obviously the historic magical run for the Jags right now and the excitement level you have heading into this big matchup with the Chiefs and the divisional round coming up this weekend.
Oh, it's going to be so awesome for the city. It's so great for the players and everybody at the organization, how everybody's come together and the players have rallied, all these great comeback wins they have. I mean, when you look at all the great comeback wins the Jaguars have in recent weeks, it's amazing. You know, not only are we on a great winning streak, but it's involved coming back from down 17 points, from down 10 points, down 17, down 9, and down 27. So all these comebacks have really led to this kind of storybook situation where we have a playoff game. We have this great opportunity to go play the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead, and I think it's going to be hopefully a great game. Everybody at the team is really excited for it. Obviously, our coach, Doug Peterson, has been such an awesome leader, and Doug is very familiar with Kansas City, very familiar with the Chiefs, and of course, very familiar with Andy Reid. Doug was the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs and worked under Andy. He also played under Andy as a quarterback. So I know it means that much more, but really, I mean, everybody is so bought in. I think everybody is throwing their support behind Doug, and we've never had this kind of great leadership that he's brought to the organization. And I think right now everybody believes that, you know, like Doug told them all along, Doug said this was going to come down to week 18. And when we were 2-6, when we were 3-7, nobody particularly outside of the building would have believed it. And the odds makers wouldn't have believed it, certainly. But it happened, and it came down to week 18, and the guys did it. They got it done, and the Jags made the playoffs, and then they pulled off that historic comeback win on Saturday night, and they put us in this position to have this great opportunity, and I know they're going to make the most of it, and I'm really happy for the guys.
Tony, all I got to say is Duval.
Lots of Jags fans here.
Yeah.
Again. All right, Tony Khan, AEW. Tony, you the man. Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me on. Hopefully I'll see you at AEW at the Nutter Center on February 1st, and we'd love to have everybody listening. Please join us Wednesday, February 1st at the Nutter Center for AEW. And hopefully you can check the show out tomorrow night live on TBS. It'll be the same kind of great show we're going to bring. It'll be fresh matches, but you know, you'll get that great TV production and you'll be on TBS if you come to the show.
All right. Good stuff. Tony, thank you so much, sir. Take care.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, there you go. AEW's Tony Khan, awesome enough to hang out with us here a little bit today to promote AEW's first appearance in the Miami Valley coming up on February 1st. It's a Wednesday night, AEW Dynamite. And of course, we had to make sure we got a little NFL talk in there. Of course, he's the chief football strategy officer of the Jacksonville Jaguars, his dad, the full owner of the team. But a lot of excitement in Jacksonville, just like in Cincinnati right now. Two teams, young quarterbacks, two teams who aren't really known for winning at this level. And yet, again, big-time divisional round matchups coming up to set up what can be a very fun and exciting AFC championship game coming up here in the coming weeks. All right, I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Hi, Greg McAfee here from McAfee Heating and Air. Dayton and the Miami Valley enjoy buying products made in the USA. Unfortunately, many HVAC products are now made in the communist country of China, and that's where the profits go too. McAfee systems come from the states of Indiana, South Carolina, Iowa, and Texas, and we're proud of it. 32 years strong. Get an estimate online at mcair.com.
You have empty office space to fill or home office to create. You know what you need. You know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places what you need and what you like might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week, there's something new. If you need office furniture, Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half the price and below manufacturer's selected prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really, desks from $50 to $5,000. Filing cabinets from $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. With 25,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Larrick's Warehouse Outlet at 23 McOil Avenue, Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Larrick's, continuing the tradition.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREON info.com.
My heart was racing just making spaghetti. I could have waited to tell my doctor, but I didn't wait.
I was short of breath just reading a book. I could have delayed telling my doctor, but I didn't wait.
They told their doctors and found out they have atrial fibrillation, a condition which makes it about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. If you have one or more of these symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness, this is no time to wait. Contact your doctor.
Brought to you by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
If you're looking to get a new car, you could really cut expenses by bundling your car and renter's insurance with Progressive. Sure, you love your old car, but you know it's not normal to give instructions on how to open the window. It should be self-explanatory, but it's not. And notice how when you're in other people's cars, you can feel cushion in the seats? That's pretty nice, right? No, it's just normal. So bundle your renter's and car insurance with Progressive and put the savings toward a new car. It's time. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to start getting conversational in another language? In as little as 3 weeks, Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
Meet Joe A,
Hi.
Joe B,
Hello.
and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect, support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Hey, Ohio, Justin Kinner from the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash with you here to let you know that the wait is finally over. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is now live in Ohio just in time for the NFL playoffs. And new customers in Ohio can get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Kinner, KINNER. Finally, you can bet on all of your favorite sports with everything from the money line to point spreads to player props or my personal favorite, in-game parlays. So go ahead and win some bucks in the Buckeye State, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Don't miss your chance to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, win or lose. Make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Must be 21 and older and present in Ohio. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
At Staples, you can count on every project being print perfect, guaranteed.
I need presentations and brochures printed, and they have to be perfect.
Your bounded presentations, brochures with the finest folds, and more will be done right every time. That's our Print Big promise. Now at Staples, get $10 off your document printing and marketing materials order of $50 or more, plus 20% back by a store bonus. Try Staples and see the difference. Ends 2/11. Rewards members only. Bonus must be redeemed in store. See staples.com/stores/printbig for details.
Don't put it off any longer. You know it's time. Time for a bathroom upgrade by Bath Creations. Bath Creations is a leader in bathroom renovations, providing the very best value in bath and shower remodeling, and proudly made in the USA. With Bath Creations, you get a beautiful modern bathroom that's safe, comfortable, and affordable. Attention first responders, veterans, and active military. Save $500 off your purchase right now. Visit Poe Avenue in Dayton or online at mybathcreations.com. And upgrade today.
My partners had told me I should get my knee replaced. I was in my 40s, and I decided that I wouldn't do that.
That's orthopedic surgeon Dr. John Herzog, who found regenerative medicine years ago and became a believer.
It changed my life around. It improved me to a point where I was able to jog again.
That's when Dr. Herzog switched his focus from surgery to helping his patients with natural biologics.
I've treated at least 5,000 patients. I believe your body has everything it needs to heal itself.
Today, you'll find Dr. Herzog at QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in this exciting field of medicine that can give lasting pain relief with no downtime, no drugs, and no surgery.
I have patients coming up to me that I did 10 years ago saying, Doc, my elbow's still working great. I'm playing tennis 3 days a week.
Call QC Kinetics now to explore alternative ways to deal with your pain. It's a free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325. 937-936-0325.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor.
So what do you provide? Cookie cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments that earn you high commissions, right? And make commissions when you make trades for your clients?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades.
So what's in it for you?
Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. When it comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Menards has everything you need to light your home. Combine stylish lighting with the advantages of LED technology with Fight Electric dimmable light bulbs. The vintage look is ideal for open fixtures, and the traditional design creates a warm, contemporary feeling. These 60-watt equivalent bulbs are available in soft white or daylight and last 5 times longer than traditional incandescent light bulbs. Save big money on your energy costs with Fight Electric dimmable LED light bulbs at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
Cordell Transportation is now hiring Class A CDL drivers. Excellent pay, benefits, and a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Apply today. Online at CordellTransportation.com. Driven to succeed.
Well played. Well played. That's what like every basketball arena does now. Like everyone's got these new lights at the arenas now, and like basketball teams and even football, you could see it on TV. Teams are like obsessed with just turning the lights on and off and just making them flat.
Strobe lights.
My goodness.
It's a party.
We welcome you
glow
back.
sticks.
ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. He rejoins us coming up later on in hour 2. How about Tony Khan? Pretty cool getting a little bit of time with him. We were kind of laughing. Like, I know he's sticking to his script. He's heavily promoting this. Their model's a lot different than WWE. I think one reason that they work is because they they came in, they needed the star power of WWE, but they don't operate the same and they do things differently, of course. But I mean, you don't see Vince McMahon calling around to do those, and you don't have to. AEW, was acknowledging the importance of that, but I think it's pretty cool. But we have that connection and partnership with them now moving forward. I'm excited for when they come into Dayton on Wednesday, February 1st. But Tony Khan has such a fun life, though, because Kev, so he's part owner of the Jaguars. He runs AEW. I was listening to him on the Rich Eisen show about a month ago, and I guess his dad, I can't remember his dad's name, the owner of the Jags, the full owner, but Mr. Khan, let's just call him that, Mr. Khan. But I guess and this is that FU money that these dudes have, because I guess the dad was like, he had no confidence that this wrestling thing was going to work. But imagine, think about I wanted this video game one time, and my dad was like, you're not wasting your money on that video game. That's a dumb video game. But we had to be careful with money. We didn't have a lot of money. But when you have this, that's one thing to buy a video game that you're not wasting your money on that. You're not wasting your money on this. His dad's like, you're going to spend money on building a competition for WWE. I don't think it's going to work, but okay, sure, fine. Go right on ahead. Go spend billions of dollars to try to commit. Now it's working, but I just find that dynamic very interesting. But he also, as far as Tony Khan with the Jaguars, owns AEW, and then of course he owns a Premier League soccer team. I think it's I don't remember which one it is. I'll pull it up to make sure I'm promoting it exactly right. But very interesting interview to have him on. I know he didn't really go too deep with us, but I appreciate the fact that he gave us time at all. But he did lighten up when we did get to the Jag stuff, because I think that's fun. That's fun for him. He gets to be a fan when he goes to that. So
yeah, this is all business for him. One of the things that stood out to me the most was Sting. Sting is still wrestling. Sting was wrestling when I became a wrestling fan, and Sting is 64 years old. Hopefully I'm still in that type of shape when I'm 64. Goodness gracious.
Of all the wrestlers that you stole a name from, Kev Nash. You could have gone with Sting. You could have gone with Goldberg.
Sting.
My goodness. But yeah, they have a lot of WWE's. Chris Jericho, John Moxley, which is Dean Ambrose, from Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan. They don't have CM Punk anymore. That's who I would have loved to have seen when he came over. But nonetheless, they have a pretty good roster. Pretty cool. Excited that he gave us some time today. All right, coming up in hour 2, we'll get back, of course, into the NFL playoffs coming out of what was a very fun super wild card weekend. And something else too, we talked about it last week, Kev, about, if the Bills and Chiefs do end up playing in the AFC Championship game, it'll be played at a neutral site in Atlanta. But have you taken a look to see what the ticket prices are? The NFL is hoping. The NFL is praying. I usually don't. Man. I usually get on Bengals fans. I'm like, stop. The NFL's not out to get you. Stop it. I'm too exhausted to deal with that. I think the NFL really wants this Bills Chiefs thing, because if you go look at the tickets, this is like the college football playoffs. By the way, NFL playoff tickets are super high anyways.
Yeah.
These are double what the prices were. So when the Chiefs have played in 3 straight AFC title games, Chiefs fans are going to be spending significantly more to watch their Chiefs in Atlanta than watching them on their home field.
Right.
Buffalo, same thing. They have playoff games. This will be the most expensive ticket that either fan base has paid for NFL playoff tickets. Read that article earlier today. So trust me, the NFL, they're wanting this Bills Chiefs matchup. I'm not fanning the flame of the conspiracy theory, and I don't want the Bengals fans to overtake the show with that, but they may be onto this one. This one I might give you. I do think the NFL, I'm telling you, Kev, I might take off all next week, because if I have to deal with a week of all the bad calls or to force Buffalo in there, because if the Bengals lose off of a horrible call, I'm done next week. PTO, I haven't accrued enough yet to take off. I'll owe the company some hours if I need to. Woofa. But the stars are aligning for some kind of crazy finish that will be dictated by a bad call.
That's
or
how
a
it
call
always
general.
goes.
But this will have the juice of, oh man, these officials, they placed Buffalo in the AFC Championship game in Atlanta.
Man, and think about it like this. The team that has to cooperate is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They can't go in here and try to win this thing. They got to let Kansas City win this thing, because the NFL has it mapped out. They got this storyline all set out. They got the storyline between the rematch between the Bills and Kansas City on a neutral site, which is going to bring in tons of money. Or you have the rematch from last year's AFC Championship game with the Chiefs and the Bengals again. So, the revenge factor for Kansas City, the team that can't mess this up for the NFL is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kevin Nash here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We're going to talk about them Jaguars. So the Jags for real. All right. Can we actually see Trevor Lawrence in the AFC Championship game? Are the Jacksonville Jaguars this season Cincinnati Bengals? Maybe. I don't know many people, even when the Bengals won against the Raiders last year, It's not like everyone knew they're destined for the Super Bowl. It was, it's a great storyline. They went on their home field and they ended, they broke a curse and all that. That's great. So that's kind of like Jacksonville. And that's cute. They got their first playoff win with Trevor Lawrence. That's awesome. All right, we'll go pay attention to it. And the next thing you know, the Jags are playing really good football. The Bengals talking about their win streak. The Jags have a streak going too, and they have found some miraculous ways to win. It's one thing to have a winning streak where you're dominating throughout that win streak. That says a lot about who you are as a team too. Don't get me wrong. But then there's something about when you go on these win streaks where you're just gutting out wins and you're finding ways to win, and you find multiple ways to win. That's what makes Jacksonville dangerous. And of course, the breakout season for Trevor Lawrence. Officially, the AFC has another young superstar QB under the age of 25. Unreal. Another one. Hour 2. We have another hour coming up next. We'll be right back.
I've had COVID.
Me too.
But I didn't know you could get it again.
What?
And if you're 50 or older,
Or have a chronic condition like heart disease or diabetes.
Getting COVID again could get really serious, even deadly.
that's why getting an updated COVID vaccine is so important.
COVID isn't going away anytime soon, but I can lower my risk.
And I'm up for that.
We can do this. Find updated COVID vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Getting your guaranteed maximum refund with TaxSlayer feels like discovering a refund tree has grown in your backyard.
I'm the refund tree.
Sawing off its branches.
Hey.
Feeding them through a wood chipper.
My branches! My beautiful branches!
And dancing in its refund rain. Start for free and get your guaranteed maximum refund. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Jackson Hewitt guarantees your biggest tax refund, plus a chance to double your refund with the Double Your Refund sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. U.S. residents 18 or older who file a 2022 federal return ends 4/2/23.
Do you or any of your family members, neighbors, or friends own a property that you just want to be done with it? If so, call TurboTrack Realty today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Would it be convenient for you to take what you wanted and leave the rest behind? Great, I'll buy it. Call 614-470-2000. That's 614-470-2000.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Hi, it's Steve Mann. Have you heard the commercials for the Mark Patrick Stop Smoking seminars? And they said only $49.99 and it could work for you. So I thought, that's not even a week's worth of smoking. So I went. And guess what? It did work for me. You know, my friends and family are still amazed. I quit smoking. I didn't have cravings, anxiety, or weight gain. Listen, I don't know how it works, but I know it works because I'm living proof and it's 100% guaranteed. So what do you got to lose? I'll tell you what you got to lose. A very bad habit.
Mark Patrick Seminars. Stop smoking without cravings, irritability, or weight gain. Only $49.99 guaranteed. Don't just cut down, but stop smoking once and for all or your money back. Seminar 8 p.m. on Thursday, January 26th at the Holiday Inn Dayton Fairborn, I-675 in Fairborn. Or 2 p.m. on Saturday, January 28th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites, Dayton South, I-675 in Dayton. Registration 30 minutes before seminar. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Whether you're at home, at work, or in your car, tune in to ESPN 1410 Wing AM or stream us live at wingam.com.
All right, we'll open up the phone lines. Phone lines have been closed. We had AEW's owner Tony Khan on the show in the opening hour. We recapped the Bengals and the Bills already to open up the show, and the one thing that I kind of alluded to earlier was Bengals fans. I got a kick out of this, Kev. Everyone expected me to blow up on the Bengals after how poorly they performed against the Ravens, and they didn't get that. And the reason is because I had an idea that the Bengals game that they weren't going to dominate the Ravens. I was very confident they were going to beat the Ravens. That's not a hot take. I mean, Vegas agreed and everyone agreed. I don't think anyone, I mean, even some real Homer Ravens fans weren't expecting, to beat the Bengals. But I had an idea that it was going to be an ugly game for the Bengals and Ravens, just like it was going to be an ugly game for Bills Dolphins, because I think I categorized both as trap games. I feel like both that, were trap games. But the thing is there's nothing easy in the playoffs. I thought back to last year's Cincinnati playoff run. I thought about last year's Bengals run in the playoffs where, I mean, even when they beat the Raiders to end the streak, right? They beat the Raiders. They had a large lead. They let it slip away. Derek Carr in the red zone, who last season, not this most recent season, but last season was in the top 5 as far as most efficient quarterback in the red zone. And he doesn't throw picks, and he threw an interception in that loss against the Bengals. The Bengals defense stepped up, got an interception to end the game against the Raiders to snap the streak. Then they go into Tennessee. Joe Burrow gets sacked 9 times. Nine times he got sacked. And I think that's as crazy a fact. The fact that they got the win while he got hit 9 times is insane as a quarterback throwing 4 interceptions in a game and winning a game trailing 27-0. Weird things happen in the playoffs, and gutsy teams find ways to win. The Bengals trailed big time against the Chiefs in the opening half against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, and then came back and won off a kick from McPherson. Everything was ugly about the Bengals playoff run last year. There was no win that you guys felt good. You felt good about the outcome, but there was nothing like, oh man, Joe Burrow looks elite. Joe Burrow looked very good in the playoffs. I mean, he made great plays, but the playoffs was about team effort. Mm-hmm. Every team that won this past weekend, Dak had to play his best game of the season. The defense had to play their best game of the season last night to come away with the win. The San Francisco 49ers, let's be clear. I know they pulled away late. They won that game, yes, because of defense, but Purdy threw for 350 yards. He was pretty damn good. If you get just a regular rookie game out of Purdy, Kev, I don't think you beat the Seahawks, or it's going to take a full 4-quarter game to do it. So a lot of teams had to play damn near perfect games to come away with comfortable wins, like the Cowboys and the Niners. And then other teams, they had to hold on for dear life. It was not an easy weekend for any team out there outside of the Niners and Cowboys. And even then, they had to play damn near perfect games to do so. So no, I'm not... We knew Burrow struggles against this Ravens defense. We beat up on them last year, but the matchup kind of went how I thought. I think it was closer than I had anticipated. That's for sure.
That's a lot of rematches as well. Not only rematches the games that happen in the regular season, it's division rivals. So a lot of these games are played for the third time. Like, nobody knows you better than somebody that plays you multiple times every single year. Same coaching staff, same players that have been there for years. So they're going to come out there with their best stuff and to try to neutralize what you do best. So there's no reason or no wonder why a lot of these games were tight this weekend, because a ton of them were rematches. I think all of them were rematches as I think about it.
But, this Bills matchup coming up, divisional round, this is one of them games that, the path to the Super Bowl is significantly tougher than last year, because you had to go through, and Huntley played pretty well. We got to give Huntley credit. I feel bad for Huntley, though, by the way. His coach threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
Oh, that play, he was supposed to dive low, and instead he went over the top and called him out. Like most coaches don't do that. Yeah. J.K. Dobbins coming out after, and by the way, Huntley I don't know if he outplayed he outstatted Burrow. Let's just put it that way. But he made big throws. I think he played a better game considering your expectations for him.
He's a backup
than Burrow did for what I thought he should have done against the Ravens.
I think they play even. I think Joe outplayed him in the first half, and I think that Huntley outplayed Joe in the second half. And the thing about it is, it comes down to that fumble and him trying to go over the top at the 2-yard line. Obviously, that's not what you should do. But ultimately, on their last drive of the game, head coach is allowing the clock to just tick, tick, tick away, tick, tick, tick away with a backup quarterback. Not only the clock is running, but hey, we got 3 timeouts. Let's burn the timeout. Make sure we're all on the same page. This is a backup quarterback who's coming off an injury, who just started practicing on Thursday. So maybe he hadn't gone through the whole 2-minute drill. And he's a backup quarterback. So let's make sure we're on the same page. I like Harbaugh. I think he's a great head coach, but it's stuff like that. It's stuff like that irks me the wrong way, where you're allowing the team to go out there and you have timeouts in your back pocket. Well, we didn't want them to get the ball back. Well, guess what? If they get the ball back, they get the ball back. But if you never score the touchdown, you never get to tie the ball game. So you're going to lose. So burn the timeout, get on the same page, and potentially score the touchdown. Yeah, that too. He's a backup quarterback.
And the other complaint, and I had a problem with J.K. Dobbins. By the way, Buckeye players who are fairly quiet during their time in Columbus, they are loud in the NFL. I mean, how about Bosa? My goodness.
Nothing to complain about in Columbus, baby. They win it.
I guess you're right. That's very true. But Dobbins, and I don't think Dobbins is a bad person, but I know what he was trying to say, but I think you compound this with Harbaugh throwing Huntley under the bus. How about J.K. Dobbins? If we had Lamar, we win that game. Huntley played, considering who he is and his role. It's like when people ask my thoughts on how for the Browns, how Brissett played. I'm like, I thought he played damn well, considering he's a backup quarterback. His role, I think he was top notch. I think Huntley was top notch, considering that was his playoff debut on the road, tough environment, division rival. I thought he played fantastic. So then after the game, selfishly, I'm sure he feels good about how he performed, although bummed that they lost. Now he's hearing his coach call him out. Like, his coach could have said, yeah, that was an unfortunate play. That was the difference maker. But no, that play was designed for him to go low, and he went high. Well, you went low, coach. You didn't hesitate for going low, for calling your quarterback out. So he hears that, and then he hears Dobbins say, well, if we had Lamar, we win tonight. And I'm like, come on, dude. Like that. I know what he's saying, though. I think he's pissed off about that. He's annoyed with the Bengals and their fans and blah, blah, blah. He's fighting them and all the critics. But I feel bad for Huntley. I felt bad for him. I'm like, I thought he played well, but man, he got blasted by everybody. And I'm like, my goodness, he wasn't even the problem that night.
Yeah, I got a way bigger problem with him saying, if we had Lamar, we would have won, than him saying, hey, give me the ball inside.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
the
that
red
part
zone.
too. Yep.
I got a way bigger problem with that. Like, yo, like, if he's not in the game, if Anthony Brown's in that game, y'all not even in that position. Like, he threw some dimes in the second half. He helped put you guys in position to win the game. And I mean, he was inches away from tying up the football game. I think it was a bad look from Dobbins, and definitely a bad look from Harbaugh, kind of putting him under the bus, because whenever anybody asks Harbaugh about last season and him going for 2 every single time and going for 4th and 20 or these blown leads in the fourth quarter, he's really deflecting it to the players. And I mean, I understand the players are on the field, but goodness gracious, when you look back at that moment in time in that game, yeah, timeouts, man. Just use the timeout. Get on the same page, man. Like that's the type of stuff that I just don't understand. It's almost like kind of like in college basketball, where the coaches are super in control. They want to call a timeout every time to make sure everybody's on the same page. Where in the NBA, they kind of like let the guys play. Like, that's what it kind of felt like. It was like, this is not an NBA game where you're just in the flow of the game. He's a backup quarterback. Let's get on the same page, coach. I just didn't like that at all. And then, yeah, he went high. Should have went long. Like, well, if you called a timeout.
Yeah, that's nonetheless. But that game was very good. I was actually bummed that was the Sunday night matchup. I'm like, this is gonna be boring. It was actually one of the more entertaining games. That was an AFC North game.
Yeah,
I mean, we've seen that type of game between Steelers and Ravens in the past. Bengals and Steelers, and isn't there a fourth team? I think it's just a 3-team division, right? I'm not 100% sure nonetheless, but all right. But so the Bengals turned their attention towards the Bills. I don't think they've turned it towards the Bills. I think it's been aimed at the Bills, and I think it's kind of both. I know everyone thinks Bills, Bengals. I think of that Hamlin situation, of course, but I think they're wanting to put that behind them. And I think they're going to let the play on Sunday kind of dictate what we feel when we think about this rivalry moving forward. This is a healthy rivalry. This is a good rivalry. This is a fun rivalry. We'll see what happens. But how about the AFC, Kev? For the next, 5 to 10 years, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. Now you have Trevor Lawrence, who's emerged as a star. Lamar Jackson, when he comes back, assuming it's in the AFC, but they're, up and down. Russell Wilson, say what you want about him, but that's a star name. Will he return to that? I wouldn't put money on it, but here's the deal, Kev. I don't think he's and I've always said this, I don't think he's as good as what people say, but I never thought he was this bad. That's not, he was horrible. When I say I'm not a Russell Wilson dude, it's not because I think this is who he is. This is worse than what I'm like. Hey, I think he's a solid quarterback. I just don't think he's elite, but he's definitely not this bad. But maybe he is moving forward. I don't know. But the AFC, the quarterbacks, man, it's just. Patrick Mahomes against Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow against Josh Allen, AFC championship game on the line. My goodness, the AFC is fun. NFC too, but AFC, we're talking elite. That's pretty cool.
Yes, the best quarterbacks are in the AFC. So if I'm a certain quarterback that plays for Baltimore, I might be seeing what's up with one of these NFC teams I can get traded to, because you got to go through a gauntlet. You're going to have to go through a gauntlet. Last year, you talk about the quarterbacks that the Cincinnati Bengals went through. You went through Derek Carr, who's a good quarterback, especially last year. And then you went through, what's my guy out there in Tennessee?
Why have we both drawn a blank?
Tannehill.
Yep.
There's more Tannehills in the NFC than the AFC. There's some dogs in the AFC. A lot of dogs. And look, Herbert is a dog, but they just went out in the first round and they were up 27-0. Those are the type of quarterbacks you're going to go up against in the AFC. So I know I'm big on Lamar trying to maybe force his way to the Jets, but might want to look at one of these NFC teams as well, man.
I think that's one reason Aaron Rodgers was as good as gone last year. I didn't think he was going to come back with the Packers. Nobody did.
I knew he was to the Broncos. That's what I thought. And he's going to go to the Broncos.
There's part of me that wonders, if that played a heavy role, at some point, Father Time going to catch up with you a little bit, right? You're going to start, your play will start degrading a little bit. I don't think but I think if it did, he could survive more in the NFC than in the AFC. I wonder if that played a role too. Tom Brady coming back, it's the NFC. I have an easier path, or whatever. But you're right. Sometimes you start to see it's AFC heavy right now, quarterback wise, but depth wise. Look at the 49ers, look at the Eagles. Cowboys, I can't tell. I don't know. He was good last night. Dak was good last night. I always say Dak is whack. He was not whack last night. That was the best game I've ever seen him play. And
hands down.
Look, not because he beat Tom Brady and the Bucs. That I don't put a lot into this Tom Brady, this Bucs team. Not very good. But it's the moment. The moment has always killed Dak Prescott. It's the moment that beats the Cowboys. And last night they were perfect.
Yeah, you talk about the moment. It's Monday Night Football. Everybody's watching. This is the only game on. So you're right. The moment seems like it was too big it looked like it was too big from that first quarter. That first quarter, it was a sketch for everybody out there. But from the second quarter on, the Cowboys were on fire.
What was more surprising this weekend? 4 interceptions in one half by Trevor Lawrence, or 4 missed extra points by the kicker for the Dallas Cowboys last night?
Extra points.
Oof.
Man. You're a kicker. Whatever we said about Ruggles for the Ohio State Buckeyes after he missed that kick versus Georgia, rinse, recycle, repeat for him. You're a kicker. We don't ask you to block. We don't ask you to tackle. We don't ask you to catch a pass. We don't ask you to do anything but kick the extra point or kick field goals. Make them.
All I know is the kicker for the Cowboys, he's actually lucky. He's lucky Urban Meyer's not his coach.
I thought you were going to say something else.
You thought I was going to be serious. What?
Lucky he had a good season. Lucky he still have a job. But
no, he's just lucky he didn't play for Urban Meyer. That's all.
Herb would have let him have it. More ways than one.
Oh, man, that has to be frustrating, but nonetheless. Quarterback that made his debut this season, this playoff, that was most impressive to you? Which quarterback were you most impressed with, or had the most impressive playoff debut? Saw Geno Smith, the Skylar kid for the Dolphins, of course, obviously Purdy. Trevor Lawrence is an interesting one. He had a part of a great comeback, but man, he wasn't impressive in the first half. Herbert looked okay. A lot of new faces to the playoff scene. Who stood out to you the most?
Daniel Jones, A+ performance. A+ performance versus the Minnesota Vikings. He was running, he was throwing, he was in command of the offense, and he just balled out. He's a player that I don't think anybody out there thought was going to be any good when he was drafted out of Duke, to be the replacement for Manning. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. He's got a new head coach this year. And you said it in segment 1 about how he was a turnover machine with all the interceptions, and now he doesn't turn the ball over. So, that talks about, coaching and his growth. He gets an A+ performance out of me, hands down. He was the best one out there.
I say Purdy because I thought the Niners would win, and I thought he would throw from anywhere between 190 to maybe 225 in that window, connect on some. But that dude threw for 350 yards.
Yeah.
He threw for 4 touchdowns. He threw 0 interceptions. He'd have a couple bad throws and then come right back and follow it up with a dime. And I'm like, that's impressive stuff to me because I am sometimes the moment is bigger than these rookie quarterbacks. So that you have to, is he shielded by a lot of talent around him? Yes. But at the same time, that same talent also surrounded Garoppolo.
Yeah.
And you know how much I like Garoppolo. That same talent in a limited time, because we haven't seen a lot of Trey Lance, but that same talent surrounded Trey Lance. Trey Lance didn't look like this. So I know people want to water it down and say, well, he has a lot of talent around him. Well, okay.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts to him.
And by the way, Baker had a lot of talent around him. He couldn't win with talent. So to act like talent makes the quarterback, the quarterback's the straw that stirs the drink or whatever. I'm going to say Purdy because I think the Niners, the lucky SOBs, just accidentally keep falling, Garoppolo is not elite and Trey Lance hasn't proven to be anything, but they keep finding themselves in situations where quarterbacks keep dropping in their lap to save them from situations. I think they may have found a star in Purdy. Now he can come and he could just crap the bed this coming up weekend. Who knows?
Yeah.
Dallas could end up in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles or Giants. Who knows? But if I don't expect Purdy to throw for 350 yards, but my goodness, he was damn near perfect. Dak, we're impressed. Dak's been in the league for years.
Yeah.
Dak just had his most perfect playoff game ever after he got that ridiculous extension or whatever. I'm not saying he didn't earn it. I'm just saying that huge contract. His best playoff game ever came after he signed that. We just watched the best playoff performance ever from Purdy, and the sky's the limit for him moving forward. I think it's him because of the expectations being so low and him overcoming it. Trevor Lawrence doing what I credit him for the mental toughness, the fact that he overcame those 4 turnovers because he could have been just buried. He could have mentally checked out.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with him. Yes, because they came back to win, but because he threw 4 interceptions. I'm impressed with him because of the 4 interceptions. Because the fact that you could throw 4 picks and a half and then come back in the second half and lead your team to victory as if those 4 picks didn't happen, that's like an etch-a-sketch memory where he just kind of shook it away. That's pretty damn impressive too. I think Trevor Lawrence and Purdy to me. Daniel Jones, I'm not going to lie, I didn't watch much of that game, so I don't know. I mean, the numbers look solid in the box score, but
he was balling.
He was okay.
He was balling. On the flip side of that, something I want to ask Fitz: people are ragging on Kirk Cousins for the check down pass on the
short
last
of the
drive,
first,
short of the first down. And I'll be
those are
the
called
first
gamblers,
one.
Kev. Those are called gamblers. Oh, is this where you're going? My bad.
No. I'll be the first one to say I'm not a big Kirk Cousins fan, but the reason they were in the game was because of Kirk Cousins. They shut down Dalvin Cook. They were doubling Justin Jefferson the entire game. They were in that game because of Kirk Cousins' ability to go to the second and third receivers. And guess what? Danny Dimes' only other 300-yard performance came against the Minnesota Vikings earlier this season. It's not Kirk Cousins' fault that Minnesota lost the game. It's the defense's fault that they lost that game. Yes, Kirk Cousins should have forced the pass to Justin Jefferson. He should have threw it somewhere else. Absolutely. But goodness gracious, that defense has been trash all year, and that's why I made a couple dollars off of them because I picked the Giants to beat Minnesota because I knew that they weren't going to not be able to stop the Giants, even though the Giants don't have any star names outside of Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, it's interesting. Which quarterback who made his playoff debut this past weekend, which one impressed you the most? Kev said Daniel Jones. I like Brock Purdy. I know that's an easy one to go to, but it's not. I'm not just picking the guy because he was on the Niners who won. They won because of him. I'm not saying they wouldn't have won if he didn't have 350 yards, but that game would have been a nail biter down to the final possession in that fourth quarter. They pulled away because he just started connecting with everyone. And by the way, I always said the Bengals have the most weapons of anyone in the league and everything, but I think the Niners, I just sit back and every guy that catches the damn ball is a star. It's like the Bengals. I think the Niners and Bengals in the Super Bowl, that would be the most star-studded matchup of any Super Bowl matchup out there. The Eagles have stars. Don't get me. They have AJ Brown. But between Ayuk and Samuel and Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, and it doesn't stop, Kev. It's absolutely insane. The Niners, we keep talking about their defense, but then I'm watching them. I'm like, we don't give the NFC enough credit for the weapons they have in the offense over here because there's just more of them on the AFC side. But that Niners team, if Purdy is the real deal, that's a dynasty in the making, because now, of course, the Niners, their rookie quarterback clock just reset.
That's the crazy thing. My brother and I were talking about this. If the Niners win the Super Bowl with Purdy, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Garoppolo by Trey Lance. I think at that point, you're the Arizona Cardinals and just say, yeah, we Josh Rosened it. You gave up draft capital. That's the problem. But they did that with Rosen too, I think. Didn't they?
Yeah,
they trade up to take Rosen.
I'm not sure, but I mean, Rosen was still a first.
They did.
Draft
They traded into the top 10 to get Rosen.
And then they lost a ton. And they had the first overall pick and got Kyler Murray. Like, just and just selfishly, I want that to happen because I want to see what they're going to do. Are they going to roll out Brock Purdy to be the new face of the franchise, him being out there, the new QB of the team? Or are they going to make it an open quarterback competition with all three guys? What are they going to do? I mean, would that even happen if they just simply made it to the Super Bowl? Do they have to win it?
So Purdy's the guy no matter what if they go to the Super Bowl, but they'll have a healthy QB competition. And Trey Lance grew from one season to the next. And man, they're blown away at the talent of Trey Lance. But after sleeping on it, they're going to go with Purdy. And now Trey Lance, who's not as good as what they say, is up for grabs. And then they'll win the bidding war. And that's, I could see it now.
That's the thing. We don't know how good he is because he played a quarter of football.
Yeah, but he plays for Shanahan, so
butt-naked, wide-open dudes.
Chad Kinser on Facebook says, Jones played a hell of a game. I was most impressed with him, but that Dolphins quarterback, he didn't let a 17-point lead deficit scare him. He battled back against the powerhouse.
No doubt.
I think they all played well. Geno played well.
Yeah.
Geno stepped up. I mean, and early on, the Niners hit him hard, but he stepped up in the pocket, and once he kind of got comfortable. And by the way, the Seahawks, I thought that was going to be like a boring matchup for them. But their offense is pretty dang good too. When you think of Lockett and you think, and by the way, they have Walker, who's a star. I liked him in college. Of course, we got to see him. Ohio State shut him out though, so that's good. But they
got busy on that team up north though.
The Seahawks are a very intriguing team too because, I like Geno did very, very well. They need to use all their draft capital to fix that defense, and they have a lot of draft capital moving on from Russell Wilson. The Seahawks could be a team that's very, very good next year as well. Whoever that quarterback is, we keep talking about. Where can Tom Brady go? Where could the Seahawks are a sneaky good team to look out for if Tom Brady went to Seattle. We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
But nonetheless, how about so Keith Tolliver says Danny Dimes did the most with the least. Kid balled out. That's always my theory too. I'm always impressed with the guys that do more with less. Now you're in the playoffs and there's a lot of these quarterbacks have a lot, but the Giants are not the most sexiest offensive team. Like they're just not. They have Barkley, but they have an identity. They know they stick to who they are. That offense isn't very flashy. They don't have a lot of flashy stars outside of Barkley on that offensive side. So, Keith, that's a good point to feed off you. I say Brock Purdy, but I just gave all the reasons why. Like, it's easier to do that. But you could fail with that, too, if you don't have the talent nonetheless. Oh, yeah. But either way. Josh Maloney, I wanted a Bengals 49ers Super Bowl rematch last year. This year, I don't want the Niners.
Smart man. I don't think anybody wants the Niners.
Ooh, that Christian McCaffrey deal, I was down on it at the beginning. But to be fair, I do remember saying, look, it looks good on paper, but like he hadn't stayed healthy. But when he stays healthy, now all of a sudden it looks like a great deal. But at the time, though, I mean, we're coming off back-to-back years where he never played, and you want us to be excited about that. But the Niners, everything's going their way. It's that Shanahan effect.
Swiss Army knife. They got two Swiss Army knives. Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuels can line them up anywhere on the field. You can use them as decoys. I mean, Shanahan schemes open dudes left and right. He's just going to keep on doing it.
Jason Fitz joins us next.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
The mid-afternoon and early evening will be partly cloudy and very windy, a high near 60. Tonight's going to be mostly cloudy, a low near 35. And tomorrow's going to be mostly cloudy, a high near 48. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather is brought to you by Cullet Propane. 98% of their customers recommend Cullet. If you wouldn't recommend your current supplier, check them out at culletpropane.com.
DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is officially live in Ohio, right in time for the NFL playoffs. Now you can legally bet on all your favorite sports, anytime and anywhere, right here in Ohio with DraftKings. For a limited time, new customers who sign up with promo code WING1410 and bet $5 or more will receive $200 in bonus bets instantly. Now, just because my Pittsburgh Steelers didn't make the playoffs doesn't mean I shouldn't try to make some money with some same-game parlays and player props. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers can use promo code WING1410 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on anything. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code WING1410. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and up. Physically present in Ohio. Valid one offer per first-time depositor who have not already redeemed $200 in free bets via pre-launch offer. Minimum $5 deposit and wager. $200 issued as bonus bets. Eligibility restrictions apply. See dkng.co/OH for terms.
Hi, this is Joe Cordell with the law firm Cordell & Cordell. Divorce can be complicated, especially if children are involved. If you're a father and want to protect your role in your children's lives, remember Cordell & Cordell. We've helped men with matters like these for 30 years, and we'd love to help you.
Contact Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Dayton area attorneys, a partner men can count on. 2689 Commons Boulevard, Suite 100, Beaver Creek, Ohio, 45431. Online at CordellCordell.com.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, live with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. Of course, we're recapping everything that transpired over Super Wildcard Weekend. We were off yesterday, so we're recapping everything here today on a Tuesday. Excited to be hanging out with each and every one of you. Tonight's the big night, Kev. Week two of the bowling league.
Oh,
the first week everyone sandbags and they go for those low. They bowl poorly on purpose, so that you can get that nice handicap when you start bowling well above your average. But I'm too competitive, so I went out there and I worked hard for my 172 average right now.
Look at you.
Yep.
You way better than me. I bowl around like a 100.
Well, when you put the bumpers down, it gets a little worse. No, but nonetheless, yeah, big bowling and drinking night. That's why I'm always a little rusty on Wednesdays. It's not because I was up all night working, and I'm just working to feel better come Wednesday, but nonetheless. All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We had AEW's Tony Khan in hour one, and excited for our hour two guest, of course, ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. Jason, it's been a while, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. And Tony Khan, man, super nice. Can I just tell you, you didn't ask for a Tony Khan story, but I was doing a backstage thing at AEW for our digital department for their first ever live event in Connecticut, and he actually DM'd me. It was like, "Hey, come say hi." So the handlers took me down to Tony in the middle of the whole TV show, and he reached out, was like, "Really big fan of your work," and like it was awesome. Like Tony Khan did a nice thing and made me feel like meaningful. I look back at that and I was like, man, I walked away from that really impressed with Tony the individual. I thought he was a really good guy.
You know who he reminds me of, Jason, is Mike McDaniels. He's a guy that when you look at him and if you just have a guy stand in front of you and they say, okay, guess his profession. Tony Khan is not a guy I would look at and say, oh yeah, he's the Vince McMahon of AEW, or he's part owner of the Jaguars. And, obviously he owns a soccer team. I mean, the guy is living one hell of a life. I mean, my goodness, he has his hands in so many different projects, but he gets to put together a super roster for wrestling in AEW. He's part of this Jaguars run right now, which he was super jacked to talk about that with us as well. He's a big soccer fan, but yeah, he reminds me of Mike McDaniels. You look at him, you had to guess what he did for a living. Those are the last things you would guess, but both are super talented at what they do nonetheless. But he was fun.
Yeah, and just that matters, by the way. Relatability is part of what makes Mike McDaniel a good coach. I think Tony Khan's going to have a successful product for a while with AEW because there is a certain relatability to his nerdiness. Yeah, I say that with love.
Jason, so Kevin and I, before you called in, we were just talking about, okay, a lot of quarterbacks made their debut, not all rookies, but a lot of quarterbacks made their playoff debuts this past weekend. And I expected to see some bad football. And it's funny, we saw bad football from some more experienced quarterbacks in the playoff than a lot of the newcomers. But Kevin and I weighed in on who we thought looked most impressive in their playoff debuts this past weekend. What say you? What quarterback that made their playoff debut this past weekend really stood out to you?
Oh, Daniel Jones all day, every day. And I know that was against the Vikings. So I hear everybody say, calm my roll. But the fact is, if Daniel Jones had looked like trash, nobody would be calming their analysis, right? So I think Daniel Jones went out and looked, most importantly, under control. Like, he was a guy that looked like he was 2 steps ahead the entire game, and that speaks to the work he puts in. And also, by the way, his ability and his lack of, care about using his legs in that was absolutely huge. I thought Daniel Jones was special in that game. And, man, if that's the best of Daniel Jones, then he's going to be worth every ounce of the $40 million a year contract he's about to get.
So I'm not a huge Kirk Cousins fan, but I do have a problem with everybody banging on Kirk Cousins today and today for the check down pass. Daniel Jones' only other 300 performance came against the Minnesota Vikings. It's the defense's fault, right? Because they're not in that game without Kirk Cousins. I mean, 31 of 39, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns. They basically shut Dalvin Cook down. They doubled Justin Jefferson the entire game. So why are people just constantly banging on Kirk Cousins, especially for this performance versus the Giants?
Because we're wrong about the way we now analyze football all the time. Like, this comes down to the simple thing that I've told you all before. Like, the first time this season I talked to Dan Orlovsky a month in, and I said, dude, why are we wrong about so many teams? And he said, because we spend too much time focusing just on quarterbacks. And the NFL is about more than quarterbacks. And look at that. Like, Brock Purdy played really well. I'm not taking anything away from Brock Purdy. But I can also look at it and quite reasonably say, like, hey, Brock Purdy is successful in part because, I don't know, there's a great stinking roster around him. And that great stinking roster helps elevate the quarterback. Like, we make everything about one position, and I don't understand it. Like, the Vikings defense isn't bad. The Vikings defense is terrible. It's trash. It's hot garbage. It's poorly assembled. It's poorly coached, and it's poorly played. And then we're sitting here making this about one bad Kirk Cousins throw. Like, let's talk about the fact that Daniel Jones did go off and that they had absolutely no way to slow him down. Like, I think we put all the blame in the wrong place on this Vikings matchup. The Vikings should be embarrassed by their defense. They should spend every draft pick and every dollar they have fixing that and then worry about the quarterback position later.
The Jaguars match up with the Chargers, and a lot to take away from that. That was interesting because a lot of, my goodness, 4 interceptions for Trevor Lawrence in that first half. So, by the way, Jason, I said Brock Purdy to me was the most impressive just because I'm a Browns fan and I've seen a team put talent around a quarterback that the quarterback still couldn't elevate his play. So that's why that theory I kind of debunked. I used Baker Mayfield so that's why I went with Purdy anyways. But Trevor Lawrence I put second because the fact that, yes, he led the team to come back for a win, but he did that after throwing 4 interceptions in the first half. Even the most chiseled, seasoned veteran quarterback could throw 4 picks in the first half. I don't know if they're mentally strong enough to come back and lead a team to victory. Trevor Lawrence did that. And I think that's what, the outcome was surprising and fun to watch. Yes. But I think what was most impressive is that dude threw 4 picks, not in the game, but in the first half alone, and then still had the mental wherewithal to come from behind and lead his team to victory. The Jaguars have something cooking over there. They have something special. And I think Trevor Lawrence proved why, not just because they came back to 1, but because he put that 4-pick performance behind him, not from one week to the next, from one half to the next.
So let's add a little extra context to that because Daniel Jeremiah did an interview last weekend with Trevor Lawrence. And he asked him, hey man, what changed? Because since week 9, you've been dominating. And he said to Daniel Jeremiah, and I actually sent a screenshot of it at the time and sent it to my group thread that does the Monday Night Football show. I was like, we need to keep an eye on this. He said at the time, his answer was confidence. I don't think that you can be a great quarterback in the NFL unless you have confidence. And somewhere in my rookie year, I started to lose that confidence. I found it again this season. And I knew once I got that confidence back that I could play. And I kept thinking about, wow, Urban Meyer almost ruined the confidence of one of the most sure thing draft picks we've seen in a generation. But also, I was like, man, I wonder what we're going to see from him in the future. And when he threw that 4th interception, I was genuinely, because of that conversation, I was watching close to see his body language, to see his facial expressions, to see if was there anything cracking with his confidence. And there was a moment on the highlight or on the television broadcast that Doug Peterson grabbed him and they were having an inch-to-inch face conversation, but it wasn't yelling. There was some conversation that went on and you saw this calmness from Trevor Lawrence. And I thought, man, that's weird. It just looks weird. And then I watched Trevor Lawrence stay calm the entire game. I think that there's a confidence that came even from seeing through that. Like, here's the thing. If the Chiefs jump out to an early lead, the one thing the Jags aren't going to do now is fold because they've been there, done that. So, like, I'm looking at it saying the difference in that game was the Chargers did something that the Jags never did. The Chargers got tight. The Jags were down by how much, with how many turnovers, and they weren't tight. The Chargers got tight the minute this game got close. And I think that speaks to who Trevor Lawrence is. The Jags are about to be special for the next decade. I'm excited for Jacksonville fans.
So on the flip side, you talked about the Chargers. Like, who is this on? Is this on Staley for not running the ball or only running the ball 7 times in the second half? Is this on Herbert for not converting on third downs? Is this on Bosa for getting penalties? Who is this on? Because obviously Jacksonville gets a lot of credit for coming back, but they don't make this comeback without help from the Chargers.
Oh, this is squarely on Brandon Staley to me. And you know what? You mentioned only running the ball 7 times in the second half. We have spent weeks on Fitz and Harry talking about the fact that as good as Eckler is, and we all know this if you like me and you had him in your fantasy league, as big as his fantasy points are, when the Chargers need to run the ball, they can't. They haven't been able to all year. So that failing eventually was going to come back and bite them in the butt, and that's exactly what happened. Because they didn't properly address that at any point in the season, when they actually needed to run the football, they couldn't. And not only that, they couldn't even disguise the attempt to, because it was never taken seriously. Imagine being up by 27 and never having anyone think that you're going to be able to run the football, or being up by 17 and never have anyone think that you're going to be able to run the football. Like, it is wild that the whole season, the deficiency of the season by Brandon Staley and his offensive staff came like full bore in this playoff game. And I think that speaks squarely to the coaches. Was Bosa an idiot? Yes, Bosa is an idiot. No problem saying that loudly. And the way he handled it afterwards was idiotic as well. Bosa acts like an idiot at times. I'm not going to take anything away from that. He's also out there trying his hardest to make plays. Coaches need to put teams in situations to be successful. I don't think the Chargers were ever put in a situation to be successful, because all season there have been deficiencies that this coaching staff simply didn't address.
By the way, for those just tuning in, Jason Fitz from Fitz and Harry, again, ESPN Radio, hanging out with us here today like he does every week here on the Justin Kinder Show with Kev Nash. Talking about that Chargers-Jags matchup, Keith Tolliver, he messages into the show. He says, Justin, you're missing the most impressive thing in the Chargers and Jags game. Staley's still employed. Yeah, I think when they announced that they got rid of their offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach today, Jason, I was like, oh, well, that's code for, yeah, we're not moving on from our head coach, because you could have got rid of the head coach and it was just implied that you got rid of your offensive coordinator. Are you surprised they're sticking with Staley? Because it just, you know, and Jason, let me reset this too real quick. We talk a lot about the Cincinnati Reds here in Dayton. We're a Reds affiliate. You know, that's the team here, close to us. And they use a lot of advanced analytics. And the one thing, and a lot of baseball teams do, but the one question I've always asked is, if using advanced analytics is being pushed down upon you from the front office. So if they're forcing you to do it, and those decisions based on the analytics are losing you baseball and football games, how could they fire you for losing when you go back to their office and say, hey, I know you're mad about the results of these games, but I'm doing what you told me to, which was to use the stuff that you have invested so much money in? How could they be wrong? They're doing their job. They're doing what they were told to, which is to utilize this for game plans. Is that what's happening here with Staley? Staley's going in saying, hey, y'all could be mad about the results, but I'm doing what y'all told me to do and told me to buy into, which was this. How is he still employed? And I'm not big on calling for people's jobs, but my goodness, I'm just surprised he still has this job.
I think, well, a couple of things. Staley's part of the analytics problem. He's not, when you talk about the Chargers, he's one of the believers in the analytics, and he lives by them and he dies by them, but he's picks and chooses when, which is weird in his coaching strategy. Just like his decision to play players in a meaningless last game of the regular season, where he says, well, every game matters. Well, you didn't play a single player in the preseason, so you were willing to be rusty for the first 3 weeks of the regular season because you chose not to play any of your starters for a single snap. So Staley's not consistent. That's my issue. How he stays employed, I think he goes to the ownership, and the ownership knows this. He talks to them very openly about the number of games lost to injury, right? And so when you look at the number of games lost to injury, the Chargers were one of the bigger ones. So I'm sure they're looking at it and saying, well, if we hadn't been hurt so much, this would have looked totally different. And that's the sales pitch. And if you can convince everybody that that's true, then you keep your job. But answer me this, Chargers fans, because I'm genuinely asking. You think with Staley on the sideline that you can be better than the Chiefs? Because that's who everybody's chasing. And right now, I think I can look at my beloved Raiders, for example, and say, look, they don't have enough talent to chase the Chiefs or the Chargers. I can admit that openly. The Chargers have the talent to chase anybody in the league. So if they are not on par with the Chiefs year in and year out, it's not because of the talent. It's got to be because of the coaching.
Man, I got to take it all the way to Monday night. Dak Prescott's performance after a shaky first quarter, I give him an A+. And I mean, the lights are always on the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys came to play big time on Monday Night Football in the wild card game.
Yeah, it was not only did Dak come to play, but come on, 2 penalties, no turnovers. Quinn did a beautiful, like a masterclass version of moving Parsons all over the defensive line so that you couldn't tell where he was coming from. A beautiful job of dropping him sometimes, bringing him sometimes, had Brady confused, which is difficult to do. We all know that. That was beautiful. Kellen Moore's game plan was incredible. The way they ran the football was really impressive. Pollard went out there and reminded everybody why he is who he is, to finding a sliver of grass and turning it into the turbo button. Like, I just feel like every single person that had to be great was great on Monday Night Football, including Dak Prescott. Now, does that mean that I trust him against the 49ers? I think it's fair to say no. I mean, like, you've been up and down. Like, I use this analogy on Fitz and Harry today, but if anybody's ever been in a relationship with a significant other that we would call, air quotes, crazy, you know that, like, you go through a period where you're like, I don't get this person at all. They've lost their mind. And then all of a sudden you have one great date. Does one great date finish or fix the 4 to 6 weeks of crazy you just dealt with? Probably not. But does it give you a sliver of hope for what your relationship could be? Probably. That's where the Cowboys are. Like, it's like being in a relationship with somebody you know is absolutely a maniac, but hey, it's worth it because you enjoy the ride.
I think there's a lot of different analogies you could use with the Cowboys. That's about right. But nonetheless, ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. Back to the AFC quickly, of course, when you have the Bengals and the Ravens. And you know, I talked last week about the fact that I felt like the Bills and the Bengals both were playing in trap games coming up. And it's not often where you talk about trap games and use that type of talk in the playoffs because, you know, that's the biggest stage of the season. But, you know, you had the Ravens without Lamar Jackson. It's easy to overlook the Ravens, especially with how poor they've been offensively without Lamar Jackson. And then you look at the Dolphins, who were one of the most explosive offensive teams to start the season when they had Tua. Since Tua's been missing a lot of time, you know, with the concussion protocol and everything along those lines, they're just not consistent enough offensively. So right away, we chucked the Bills into the divisional round as well. I think both teams were looking ahead to one another. Bills at Bengals, Bengals at Bills. I felt like they were going to overlook these opponents. I said I expected to be talking Bills, Bengals today, but I wouldn't be surprised if we weren't in case one of the teams tripped up. I think the trap game element existed and why both teams struggled. Of course, it is the playoffs too, but at the same time, there are deficiencies with the Bengals and injuries right now, and the Bills are banged up as well. You're, you know, looking at how both of those teams kind of came through in their wild card matchups and where that takes us heading into the divisional round this coming up weekend.
I can excuse the Bengals for the reason you just mentioned. And by the way, for all the conversation about the quarterback, that Ravens front seven, we all know is still beefy, right? Like, we know how good the Ravens are. I can excuse the Bengals in that matchup. I think you're right. I think both teams are looking ahead a little bit. I cannot excuse what the Bills did offensively because y'all, like, I'm just saying, if Josh Allen had a big old star on the side of his helmet and was the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, how would we be talking about his turnovers right now? Because they are every bit the issue that they have been for Dak this year, if not more, and we just don't talk about it. And, like, I get it. It's because a lot of people said a lot of things about Josh when he came out. Then he proved everybody wrong, and now everybody feels stupid, and now all of a sudden he has to be the golden child. There has to be an in-between on this. Like, I can agree that Josh Allen is one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL and one of the best young quarterbacks and a guy I would kill to have to be the quarterback of my favorite team. And say in the same breath, this year, consistently, he has put the football at risk where he doesn't need to, and he did it again in this game. Like, he pushed some of those throws he didn't need to push. He held on to the ball and didn't see the blitz coming when he's got to identify that. Held on to the ball when he didn't have to. He's trying too hard. And we keep talking about Dak not seeing the field well. Well, I'm not sure right now we can trust that Josh Allen isn't going to try and be Superman every play. And that's the biggest problem, I think, that's going to rear its head. So while I will forgive both of their teams for the outcome, I can't forgive when I've seen something in that game that mirrors what we saw during the regular season. And that quite clearly, go back and watch the Bills this year. Josh Allen has had not just interceptions. They're like, well, just one of those years. He has had dumb throws that you sit there and say, well, why that one? That has cost his team football games. And, man, I don't trust Josh Allen against this Bengals defense not to make a mistake.
Wow. So I mean, is that your pick? Are we talking Bengals?
Yeah,
Chiefs,
I'm all in.
AFC?
I think the Bengals. Yeah.
Oh, I
Bengals
know.
win the
I've
Super Bowl.
heard the love fest on Fitz and Harry. I didn't know, like, I was against Bengals Love Talk on my radio station. And then all of a sudden, this new show, Fitz and Harry, it's a great show. Oh my, Joe Burrow this, Joe Burrow that. I mean, it's a show that the city loves, and my goodness, you were just all about Mr. Joe. No, Joe Burrow's been great, and they found ways to win even when he wasn't great. That O-line's going to be an issue, but as you talked about, the defense for the Bengals, very, very solid, and that should neutralize the Josh Allen attack. But so you got Bengals Chiefs in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I got 49ers Bengals in the Super Bowl and Bengals Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Yeah.
All right. What about the Trevor Lawrence effect? I mean, it was a great story, coming back, beating the Chargers, but where are we at with what chance do you give them against the Chiefs? I know you're picking the Chiefs, but where are you at with the Jags?
Man,
right
but the Jags scare me because look, they can score points on anybody in bunches, and the Chiefs can give up points to anybody in bunches. Like the Chiefs defense has gotten away with this year they've been very hot or cold, very hit or miss. So I think Trevor Lawrence can take advantage of that Chiefs defense. It's going to be really interesting also because Travis Etienne is playing so well also. Like, I have a hard time. I think that Chiefs-Jags game could end up being the best game of the weekend by far. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jags win. I'm picking the Chiefs because I'm not dumb enough to pick against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs right now. But, man, I would not be surprised at all if the Jags pull off the upset at all.
All right, good stuff. ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz and Harry, weekdays from noon to 3, leading right into our show here on 1410 ESPN Radio and, of course, all ESPN Radio platforms. Jason, last thing on the way out here, the Lamar Jackson, storyline is going to be interesting. We keep an eye on that. I think it was last week, Joe Burrow, they could officially give him an extension now in Cincinnati. Which quarterback gets an extension first? Joe Burrow in Cincinnati or Lamar in the Baltimore Ravens? Lamar's been eligible for it for quite some time, but which quarterback's going to get their extension first, in your opinion?
Joe Burrow. And I think if the Bengals are smart, you sign Joe Burrow to massive historic money that changes the market because that's what he deserves, number one, because the market will change drastically in 3 years. So I'd rather have a quarterback right now on a contract for the next 5 or 6 squarely. And also because if I sign Joe Burrow right now to incredible market-changing money, I'm going to force the Ravens to either do the same or to get rid of their quarterback. I love the strategy of going in and saying, hey, I'll put an extra 10% on this just to kick the Ravens in the no-no places. So I think Burrow gets done. I think the money is huge. I think it resets the market, and it should, by the way. I think, we keep nicknaming him Grapefruit Burrows for obvious reasons on our show. I think that Joe Burrow has done everything you could ever want. And by the way, it's going to be good to be a Bengals fan for the next 15 years because you got your dude. Go pay him.
Grapefruit Burrow. He likes grapefruits? You said
he plays like he's carrying grapefruits in his
all right.
his backpack. Got a backpack full of grapefruit.
Jason, appreciate you as always, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great week.
Later. I beat him this time. All right, good stuff there. That was ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. But Jason has, again, the Chiefs and the Bills, or the Chiefs and the Bengals, in the AFC Championship game. So that was his prediction. And then he's going to go a step further. Bengals, Niners in the Super Bowl. Did he give his Super Bowl pick, though? We got plenty of time. We don't need to rush that by any means.
But I'm with him, man. I just don't like what I saw from Josh Allen, and I surely don't like what I saw from their defense, man, from the Buffalo Bills. So I think that it's a lot of plays to be had for the Bengals against that secondary. And I don't see the Cincinnati Bengals receivers dropping passes like Tyreek Hill and Waddle did. And that's definitely out of character for Tyreek Hill to drop passes.
Joe Burrow, Grapefruit Burrow. He got outplayed by Huntley. All right, guys, we'll be right back. 518-1410. This is the Justin Kinner Show with Kim Nash.
Have you heard? $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right. My friends at Cordell Transportation are now hiring Class A CDL drivers for home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight with brand new equipment, and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months, paid orientation, company 401k. Plus, they're now hiring recent truck driving school graduates. Apply today. Online at CordellTransportation.com. Driven to succeed.
Want to make tonight's dinner a perfect 10? Swing by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken and pick up a 10-piece strips meal for only $24.99. With 10 freshly marinated, honey-dipped premium tenderloins, 3 dipping sauces, 2 of our irresistible large sides, and 5 fluffy biscuits, it's family time made from scratch. Take home a top-notch dinner the whole family will love from Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken with our 10-piece strips meal for only $24.99. Only at Lee's. Famous for chicken.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzyme. EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall. If you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREON info.com.
You have empty office space to fill or home office to create. You know what you need. You know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places what you need and what you like might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week, there's something new. If you need office furniture, Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half the price and below manufacturer's selected prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really, desks from $50 to $5,000. Filing cabinets from $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. With 25,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Larrick's Warehouse Outlet at 23 McOil Avenue, Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Larrick's, continuing the tradition.
Have you heard? $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right. My friends at Cordell Transportation are now hiring Class A CDL drivers for home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight with brand new equipment, and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months, paid orientation, company 401k. Plus, they're now hiring recent truck driving school graduates. Apply today. Online at CordellTransportation.com. Driven to succeed.
People who suffer from arthritis are getting real pain relief with exciting biologic therapies at QC Kinetics.
The success rate is there, and there's no better way to treat yourself when it comes to dealing with pain.
Meet Tyler Vale, co-founder of QC Kinetics, who says they can't cure arthritis, but they can treat the pain.
If you think of the tide coming in and out on the beach and what it does, it erodes the sand, right? Can't stop the tide, but eventually when the sand or the beach gets bad enough, when we backfill that beach with sand so that we get generations of enjoyment with that beach again. And the same thing happens with your knee or your shoulder or your hip or your back. We want to backfill the problems that have happened to this point. I'm not stopping the tide, so I'm not stopping the arthritis, but I want to get generations of enjoyment out of those joints again.
Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation. Learn more about how restorative biologic therapies can get you real and lasting joint pain relief.
Call QC Kinetics, 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325. 937-936-0325.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
Today on Hey Culligan, smooth skin and soft hair comes from where? Here's Mike.
Hey Culligan, I've tried every conditioner, lotion, and body wash known to man, and my skin still feels like sandpaper.
It could be your water, Mike.
Oh, That's harsh.
More like hard water. Are you interested in smart, high-efficiency water softeners from Culligan Water?
Huh?
Want baby smooth skin and soft, luxurious hair?
Yeah, can you hurry? I have a date tonight.
We're already on the way, Mike. Let us help you out with the free in-home water test from a local Culligan Water expert at Culligan.com.
Progressive presents Adjusting to the Suburbs. You used to associate crickets with silence. But since you bought a house in the suburbs, you know crickets hate silence. If any other creature realized rubbing its legs together made a piercing, high-pitched noise, they might think, maybe I won't do that. Constantly. All night long. Luckily, you can save with Progressive by bundling your home and auto. Now that's something to make noise about. Just not constantly. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers. If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at lanceroofing.com.
Don't put it off any longer. You know it's time. Time for a bathroom upgrade by Bath Creations. Bath Creations is a leader in bathroom renovations, providing the very best value in bath and shower remodeling and proudly made in the USA. With Bath Creations, you get a beautiful modern bathroom that's safe, comfortable, and affordable. Attention first responders, veterans, and active military. Save $500 off your purchase right now. Visit Poe Avenue in Dayton or online at mybathcreations.com. And upgrade today.
Are you ready for tax season? Belmont Business Consultants and Tax Services is ready for you. If you want to come in person, it's a safe environment. Or you can just drop off. Belmont Tax also provides a completely virtual, secure client portal. For business or personal, if you want the accurate deductions you deserve, contact Belmont Tax in Dayton and Eaton. Go to BelmontBCTXS.com. BelmontBCTXS.com.
The all-new Chevrolet of Troy is now open. What are the advantages of shopping at Chevrolet of Troy? Selection has never been better. With over 300 new and pre-owned vehicles available, we always accept employee and supplier pricing, and we make financing easy. Customer service is our top priority. We care about you. With thousands off MSRP, a full-service state-of-the-art dealership, and huge selection. Make Chevrolet of Troy your first stop today. 1375 South Market Street and online at ChevroletofTroy.com.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I'm asking about Prevnar 20 because there's a chance pneumococcal pneumonia could put me in the hospital. Age 65 or older, you may be at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com. I want to be able to keep my plans.
So I'm asking my doctor about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows that Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Jackson Hewitt guarantees your biggest tax refund, plus a chance to double your refund with the Double Your Refund sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. U.S. residents 18 or older who file a 2022 federal return ends 4/2/23.
Hi, this is Joe Cordell with the law firm Cordell & Cordell. When the prospect of divorce becomes a reality, you need a partner that you can count on. If you're a man in this situation, consider contacting Cordell & Cordell. We've helped men navigate complex legal matters for 30 years.
Contact Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Dayton area attorneys, a partner men can count on. 2689 Commons Boulevard, Suite 100, Beaver Creek, Ohio, 45431. Online at CordellCordell.com.
If you're looking to move out of your parents' place, you could really cut expenses by bundling your car and renter's insurance with Progressive, which is good because your little brother has gotten really territorial. You're blood related. You'd think it would be fine to share food in the fridge. I mean, who writes their name on every individually wrapped slice of cheese, Tyler? Still, you've got to admire the commitment. So bundle your renter's and car insurance with Progressive and use the savings to help you move out and have all the cheese you want. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers.
If you want to save money and start the year right, Staples has you covered.
I need everything to restock my business. File folders, break room supplies, even business cards.
Staples has you covered with big savings on everything you need for your home or office. And now at Staples, Rewards members get $30 back via Staples store bonus when they spend $100. That's $30 to use toward everything from ink to tech. Save big right now at Staples, the working and learning store. Rewards members only. Store bonus redeemable in-store only. Offer ends 1/21.
Make the big game sound even bigger with your new TV and sound system from Audio Etc. There is nothing better than a home theater or high-fidelity music system from Audio Etc. 4K is amazing, but just imagine the 8K experience. Come to Audio Etc's crazy cool showroom today and experience 8K TVs and projectors, short throw projectors from 100-inch to 130-inch, all the way to your high-end dream system. Audio Etc has tons of new inventory in stock, while everybody else is back-ordered or out of stock. Get special deals